He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Marc Levin.
Hello, everybody. Marc Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I don't get it. Why do we give a damn about the Academy Awards? I don't give a damn about the Academy Awards. I don't watch them. I know a lot of people do, less and less. But why do I want to hear about politics from left-wing spoiled brats? Most of whom have an IQ below 15. I'm serious about it. Here we have people, and I'm going to spend, 60, 80, 90, 120 seconds on this? Here we have people who live in the lap of luxury, like no other people on the face of the earth, who have massive numbers of fans, who live a lifestyle nobody else could possibly live. Then they think that by getting up and talking about women's rights and equal pay, things they don't know anything about, well, they've served their purpose. You see, now they're revolutionaries. Just pathetic. Really, really pathetic. They luxuriate in this culture while they pretend to attack it. It's groupthink in Hollywood, for the most part. Groupthink. Cowardice. You don't see any of them living their lives the way they suggest we should live ours. Do you? You don't see them taking their massive wealth and giving it away while they promote radical egalitarianism. Of course you don't see that. You don't see them living in integrated neighborhoods. You don't see them driving Priuses and so forth. It's just, shouldn't call it Hollywood, should call it Hypocrite Town. But who cares? It's so irrelevant. But I'll tell you something that is relevant. We have Republicans in the Senate who are prepared to break and run, surrender, in the face of victory. And they're led by Lindsey Graham and John McCain and some of these other morons. It's just unbelievable. And they're all on these Sunday shows. They're on the Sunday shows because they're useful idiots. That's exactly why they're on the Sunday shows. Who cares what Lindsey Graham says? There's Lindsey Graham on Fox and Friends today. He's on ABC's This Week. John McCain's on Face the Nation. This is why they don't get ratings. Nobody gives a crap about Lindsey Graham or John McCain. They do not represent the Republican Party, the conservative movement. They represent themselves. They go home and they run as conservatives. That's Lindsey Graham's game. That was also John McCain's game last time. Oh, we're going to secure the border. You could care less. But now we have this game going on about the Department of Homeland Security. Let's fund the rest of the government. Remember this summer, behind the scenes, while they're running for office on repealing Obamacare, they haven't taken a single step toward repealing Obamacare. On holding Obama's feet to the fire when it comes to the Constitution and amnesty. Oh, we're running out of time. I don't know why this is so difficult. Fact of the matter is, I've said it again and again, and I guess I have to keep saying it, because these two knuckleheads, McCain and Lindsey Graham, among others, are purposely ignoring it. And, of course, Lindsey Graham won't even come on this program. Gutless little wonder. Because somebody knows more about the immigration laws than he does and wants to question him about them. But no, Goober won't come on. Ladies and gentlemen, the Department of... Here, let's all do this together. Let's do it together, seriously. The Department of Homeland Security will not be shut down. Once again, The Department of Homeland Security will not be shut down. Lindsey Graham, are you too stupid to understand this? I fear you are. The Department of Homeland Security, altogether, the Department of Homeland Security will not be shut down. And we know why on this program, don't we? My listeners, the smartest listeners anywhere, you know why. Because the overwhelming majority of employees at the Department of Homeland Security have been classified as essential. That means they must show up for work, paid or not paid. And eventually, of course, they get paid. And they know it. They've never not gotten paid. Double negative, but it works. So they will be paid. Now, if you were in the private sector, you wouldn't be paid. But in the government, you will be paid. And that's apparently a terrible hardship, you see, because in the private sector, people are laid off. Things are really shut down. Often at the behest of government and regulators and taxes. In the government sector, you put off some payment for a week or two. Oh, my God, the sky's falling. But anyway, so this is a fact. This is a fact that 83% of the workforce at the Department of Homeland Security must show up for work every single day, period. Period. That's ICE, it's the Border Patrol, it's Secret Service, you name it. 83%. Now, let me ask you this. Is every single thing that's paid out of the Department of Homeland Security necessary? No. And I can go to GAO reports to prove it. Every single person at the Department of Homeland Security essential? No. They say they're not all essential. What is the whining about with these hack Republicans? They don't give any damn about the Constitution either. I don't care what they say. The Constitution is more important than a pretend shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security, is it not? Yes, it is. The rule of law is what matters. Lindsey Graham won't be a senator forever. John McCain won't be a senator forever. Barack Obama, thank God, won't be a president forever. All that said, the Constitution will be damaged when it moves on to the next Congress and the next president. And they're of the same mindsets as these knuckleheads, they will further damage it, building fraudulent precedent on top of fraudulent precedent. Now, this is very serious. We've now learned that millions of illegal aliens who will get, quote, temporary legal status will in fact get permanent legal status, and they will be first in line for citizenship. We know this from House Judiciary Chairman Goodlatte of Virginia, who said this is a sneaky way to give these people citizenship. Obama did this utterly on his own and never said he would. Number two, we now know that millions of illegal aliens will be able to receive thousands and thousands of dollars under the Earned Income Tax Credit going back 3 years, even if they used fraudulent documents to work, even though they weren't allowed to work. Number three, we also know now that they will be beneficiaries of the Medicare program and the Social Security program and the Medicaid program. Number four, we also know that more money will be expended than contributed by this particular group of people, illegal aliens. Most of all, we know that if Obama gets away with this, it is a devastating blow to our constitutional system, separation of powers. And to have senators, Republican senators, in the face of a despotic president, willingly surrendering to this, is absolutely unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what we need? We need new senators. We need new Republicans. We need new conservatives. This is just outrageous. The Department of Homeland Security is not going to be shut down. Period. And yet Lindsey Graham and John McCain are all over TV. These two clowns are all over TV spreading lies. Here's Lindsey Graham on Fox and Friends today. Cut 2, go.
A lot of conservatives say, stand your ground like Ted Cruz and company, and deny the president the funding unless there's going to be some amendments to that.
Bad strategy.
Stop. For this fool, it's a bad strategy. Hey, jerk, it's the Constitution. Don't you get it? Don't you get it? No, you don't get it. Whimpering little fool. I don't care if he's a senator or not. If he wasn't a senator, what the hell would he be doing? Nothing. Useless. Go ahead.
Executive order clearly to me is unconstitutional. But
Stop. The president's executive order to him is clearly unconstitutional. And what's he going to do about it? Nothing. They're relying on this judge's decision, and you and I know that is a potential thin reed to be standing on because it has to go through a circuit court and then up to the Supreme Court, and who the hell knows what those 5 justices will say, given Anthony Kennedy's bizarre majority decision opinion in the last round on immigration involving Arizona. You're a senator, Senator. You represent an independent branch of the federal government, Senator. I think you're a senator. If you want to rely on judges, then resign your position and practice law in the private sector and bring your cases to court. But you're a senator. You have an independent duty. Go ahead.
We'll decide that. Get behind the court action. The Texas District Court.
All right, stop. Get behind the court action. How do you get behind the court action? 26 states got involved in this court action. I don't remember Lindsey Graham bending a finger in support of this court action. Not a finger. Get behind the court action? How does the Senate get behind the court action? The litigation process is in place already. Go ahead.
Ruled it unconstitutional. Right. Let's put all of our energy in supporting the court case. And for God's sake...
All right, stop. You know what? You are a complete idiot. Okay, let's get all our energy behind the court case. Ready? Just go... Feel better, Mr. Producer? We got all of our energy behind the court case. Let's pretend there is no Senate. Here's what this jerk doesn't get. The president is defying Congress. That includes the Senate. The president is defying Congress. When will Congress stand up for itself? The Democrats have already gone a long way in destroying the power of the legislative branch. The Republicans are joining with them. How much longer must we listen to these fools who are given voice by the Praetorian Guard media? How much longer must we listen to these fools? And he wasn't done. Cut 3, go.
I agree with the Texas judge who said that the executive orders were illegal. I hope Republicans will come together and back the court case, file a friend of the court brief.
Oh, this is hilarious. Folks, you file a friend of the court case, like Landmark Legal Foundation and other organizations. But if you have a constitutional role set forth in the Constitution itself to fight this, to confront this, to engage the president, why would you file a friend of the court brief with litigation that's already going on? Why wouldn't you use the power of Congress to try and fight this? What Lindsey Graham is doing is he's stabbing his own team in the back. He's undermining his own Republican senators. Now, it seems to me they accuse Ted Cruz of this all the time when he stands up to the phony Republicans in the Senate. Here, when Lindsey Graham and John McCain and others undermine a united front to stop the president from defying the Constitution with these nonsensical arguments about a friend of the brief, well, you know he's a fraud. But then comes his father, John McCain, on Face the Nation, or as I call it, Deface the Nation. Cut 4, go.
But I mean, the idea that the government might actually shut down, that the Senate would go along with that, I take it you are going to oppose that, even though some of your Republicans...
There we go. This guy's been around forever. This guy's been around forever. He knows he's a liar. He knows the Department of Homeland Security is not shutting down. He knows what essential personnel, what that phrase means. Not only does he lie in communicating to the American people, he tells John McCain, will you join me in lying to the American people? And, of course, John McCain does. Go.
We'll do that.
I do oppose it, and I remember the last time we shut down the whole government, this would obviously be Homeland Security. The last time we shut down the whole government, we turned away 600,000 visitors.
All right, there's another moron. Yeah, let's just burn the Constitution, Johnny, right? Burn the Constitution, Johnny. Clown. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
My illegitimate son, Lindsey Graham.
Over at Breitbart, Tony Lee, the Mexican consulate at you want to talk about Patricia Arquette? Is that her name? She's still alive. I didn't even know she was still around. She won some award for something, and I'm supposed to care? Equal pay. I'll get into that later. Not because she said anything, but I have to explain it over and over and over again. Just to show you how this country, with the trajectory we're going on, over the cliff, is based on all these left-wing lies about our society. What if I told you there really isn't this huge pay cap? Oh, my God, what are you? So if you renounce and reject these lies that somehow become incorporated into government policy and into social media and groupthink, there's something wrong with you. Whether it's global warming, whether it's immigration, whether it's this pay gap. You go, well, now, wait a minute. It's not really what do you mean? Against women? You know, we really have never had, wave after wave after wave of immigration to heaven. So, what are you against, Latinos? This global warming is crap. I mean, at a minimum, they changed the name. Look at all the crap signs. What are you, ignoring science? And so you got to fight these things all the time. And yet this is the left. Creating these lies, creating these myths, teaching them in our schools, advancing them in the media, and putting them in public policy. And then institutionalizing them in the Constitution, where we find jerks like Lindsey Graham and his father, John McCain, agreeing, well, that's just a bad strategy to fight it. I'll be back.
Marc Levin, America's passionately cerebral voice. Talk with that voice now. 877-381-3811.
By the way, I will be speaking at the Conservative Political Action Committee Saturday morning, 8:30 a.m. They offered me any time I wanted several months ago. And I said, well, I do not leave my radio audience unless I absolutely must. And they said, well, nobody speaks Saturday morning. People are sleeping in. I said, well, I speak Saturday morning, 8:30 a.m. I'll open it up on Saturday. They offered me Thursday. They offered me Friday. But I wanted to be here. I hope if you're going to the Conservative Political Action Committee, check it out on your website. Go on the Internet, I should say, and go to CPAC 2015. Looks like it's going to be great. I get to speak for 20 minutes, and I already know what I'm going to say. I just took some notes. I just don't show up and shoot from the hip. Back to business. No, not the Academy Award. Oh, the Academy Awards. Did you hear what some bimbo said? No, I'm afraid I didn't. Does it matter? No, it doesn't. From Breitbart, the Mexican consulate in Atlanta has been working overtime since a federal judge issued an injunction against Obama's executive amnesty last week to provide Mexican nationals documents and consulate-issued identification cards. According to a Global Atlanta report, Mexican Consul General Ricardo Cámara Sanchez urged the Mexican community to apply for consulate-issued ID documents known as matricula consular and asked other immigrant communities to start gathering documentation as well. Sanchez reportedly, quote, said the Mexican consulate processes 500 applications per day and is beefing up its mobile operations and adding a weekend and night shift to handle even more. So we're being conquered by the Mexican government. The corrupt, abusive, authoritarian Mexican government. And if the things were going so swell in Mexico, this wouldn't be a problem now, would it? The ID cards have no U.S. legal status, but they can be used to open bank accounts in some jurisdictions and apply for loans in lieu of state-issued IDs or national passports. Well, isn't that great? Lindsey Graham says, get behind the judge. Now, let me explain something and why Lindsey Graham is so dishonest and unconscionably dishonest. The popular will of the American people really has no manifestation within the court system. The job of the courts is to address facts, relate them to the law, sometimes the Constitution, involving the parties in front of the court. When Lindsey Graham says, do you get behind the judge? This isn't a campaign. Nothing matters when you get behind the judge, a letter-writing campaign, a petition. I don't know what he's thinking, but it's an absurdity. So Lindsey Graham is dissembling. He's a liar. We elect people to the Senate to get behind the Constitution, and then we get behind them. There is no reason for this surrender. There's no reason for Lindsey Graham and John McCain to continually say that the Department of Homeland Security is going to be shut down. They are participating in flat-out lies intended to create hysteria. And that's because neither of them give a damn about what Obama has done. They actually support the ends justifying the means when they pretend they don't. There is no reason to surrender. Moreover, the Levin plan, which is so brilliant, Charles Krauthammer has repeated it, which is get rid of the damn filibuster rule as long as Obama's president, since he's trying to get rid of the Constitution. No. Just buckle. Screw the Constitution. I'm trying to tell you, and I mean it. Any Republican senator who votes against standing firm on this issue is voting to undermine the Constitution. They are voting to provide financial support to Obama's unconstitutional actions, which is completely unwarranted. And here's Obama today at the National Governors Association. That's fine, but when he's meeting with the Democrat governors, I think there's like 15 of them or maybe 20. It's getting smaller and smaller. Here he is. I know it's painful. Stick with me. Cut one, go.
And I will keep on urging Congress to move past some of the habits of manufactured crises.
See, for a man who has a despotic mentality, it's a manufactured crisis when members of Congress stand up for that institution and for the Constitution. He sounds like one of these third world banana republic dictators, doesn't he? Obama manufactures the crisis and then turns it into a real crisis. Obama knowingly usurps the rule of law in the Constitution. Obama's destroying Article 1 and separation of powers. Then he accuses his opponents of doing that. And then his opponents, in some cases, really aren't his opponents. Lindsey Graham and John McCain play right into it, don't they? Go ahead.
Inflicted wounds that have so often bogged us down over the last 5 years. We've got one example of that right now. Unless Congress acts, 1 week from now, more than 100,000 DHS employees, Border Patrol, port inspectors, TSA agents will show up to work without getting paid.
Stop. Now, that's very interesting. Notice he didn't say that the Department of Homeland Security will shut down. He doesn't even go as far as Lindsey Graham and John McCain because he knows it's not true. I know it's not true. You know it's not true. So why do Republicans repeat that the government's going to be shut down or the Department of Homeland Security? God forbid. Why do they say that? When it's not true. Moreover, the House passed bill, which they're trying to pass in the Senate, allows for the funding of the TSA, port inspectors, border control, allows for the funding of the Secret Service. What it doesn't allow for is the funding of Obama's unconstitutional actions. Lindsey Graham's all over TV. Why doesn't he say it? Because he supports amnesty, that's why. John McCain's all over TV. Why doesn't he say it? Because he's dumb, that's number one. And number two, he supports amnesty too. Go ahead.
They all work in your states.
You know what? Forget it. I can't take this. So I'm digging around over the weekend. What I do, I'm writing my book. It takes me time to write a book because I actually write the book. And I go into the links and I go into the scholarship and I have others double, triple, quadruple check me to make sure that when you read the book that the endnotes are exactly correct, the references are exactly correct. Saul Alinsky, power tactics he listed in his 1971 book, Rules for Radicals. You ready? Because this is where Obama gets his pseudo-Marxism from. This is Alinsky. And remember, the Obamas are students of Alinsky, and so is Hillary Clinton. Always remember, he wrote, the first rule of power tactics. Power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. The second rule is never go outside the experience of your people. When an action is outside the experience of the people, the result is confusion, fear, and retreat. Now, Obama has failed to follow this particular rule. Turns out Obama is more of a Marxist purist than Saul Alinsky. Let's continue, shall we? Yes, we shall. The third rule of Alinsky's rules, wherever possible, go outside the experience of the enemy. We're the enemy. Here you want to cause confusion, fear, and retreat. Well, what exactly is Lindsey Graham? He's the enemy to Obama, and he's confused, and he's fearful, and he's retreating, and he's mumbling all the way. The fourth rule, make the enemy live up to their own book of rules. You can kill them with this, for they can no more obey their own rules than the Christian church can live up to Christianity. This rule, number 4, was exactly what Obama used when he gave that speech at the National Prayer Breakfast. I thought I connected it before, found it over the weekend. So rather than addressing front-on Islamo-Nazism and terrorism, what does he do? What Alinsky tells him to do. You can kill them with this, he says. Make the enemy live up to their own book of rules, for they can no more obey their own rules than the Christian church can live up to Christianity. The fourth rule carries within it, he says, a fifth rule, Alinsky. Ridicule is man's most potent weapon. It's almost impossible to counterattack ridicule, he writes. Also, it infuriates the opposition, who then react to your advantage. The sixth rule, a good tactic is one that your people enjoy. If your people are not having a ball doing it, there's something very wrong with the tactic. The seventh rule for Alinsky of power, a tactic that drags on too long becomes a drag. Man can sustain militant interest in an issue for only a limited time, after which it becomes a ritualistic commitment like going to church on Sunday mornings. What he means is attack, 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 attack. Don't just focus on one thing. And you know that's exactly what Obama's doing. Mark, that's Pivens, and this is before them. The eighth rule. Keep the pressure on with different tactics and actions and utilize all events of the period for your purpose. Keep the pressure on different tactics and actions. And it's constant, whether it's the EPA, whether it's the FCC, whether it's the Justice Department, whether it's immigration, whatever it is. That's exactly what Obama does. The ninth rule, the threat is usually more terrifying than the thing itself. The 10th rule, The major premise for tactics is the development of operations that will maintain a constant pressure upon the opposition. It is the unceasing pressure that results in the reactions from the opposition that are essential for the success of the campaign. Again, and you can see the Republicans buckling. They are winning on this fight over Obama's unconstitutional amnesty. Obama's actually boxed in. They have declared 83% of the personnel at the Department of Homeland Security essential. They cannot leave. And yet you have Republicans going on TV, liberal media outlets, surrendering all over the place, flopping on the beach like a bunch of flounder. Alinsky's 11th rule. If you push a negative hard and deep enough, it will break through into its counterside. This is based on the principle that every positive has its negative. Just keep beating up on the enemy is the point. The Republicans, Congress, the rich, just keep hammering, negative. The 12th rule, the price of a successful attack is a constructive alternative. You cannot risk being trapped by the enemy in his sudden agreement with your demand and saying, you're right, we don't know what to do about this issue, now you tell us. In other words, let me put it in plain English, no compromise. Full speed ahead with the radical left agenda. If Obamacare doesn't work, no compromise. You're pushing your amnesty through an unconstitutional, despotic fiat, no compromise. That's exactly what he does. The 13th rule. Pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. You've heard that one. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
Hey, guys running for president, I have a question. You believe in evolution? Ooh. Here's another one. You believe in global warming? Ooh. Don't you love the left? The biggest scam of the century is global warming. The fake science, the fixing the records, the other contemptible lies. That's okay. Oh, there's a scientific basis for our myths and lies and dissembling. But it's crucial to know what the Republican candidates' views are on evolution. Who cares? I don't care. Now, the liberals, of course, they can support all kinds of abortion on demand. Oh, now that has consequences, doesn't it? More so than I would say somebody's view on evolution. Hey, separation of church and state. Hey, what's your position on evolution? The left is contemptible. We must nominate a conservative. We must. A receptionist at Manhattan dental office allegedly stole hundreds of patients' names, their addresses, birth dates, their social security numbers, teamed up with a former Apple employee to open fraudulent credit lines to buy $700,000 worth of Apple gift cards. Now, the gift cards were then used to purchase Apple merchandise. Additional Apple Store employees are believed to have helped carry out the scheme. Sorry to tell you this, but it's true. No one can stop all identity theft. Identity thieves are smart, and they're experts at what they do. And everything about us, even our bank records, are on connected and stored on some cloud. All it takes is one hack, one breach. Thieves could have everything they need to take over our lives. You've heard many, many stories about this, not just the Apple story. This is precisely why I have LifeLock Ultimate Plus, because LifeLock's best just got really better. LifeLock Ultimate Plus is the most comprehensive identity theft protection available anywhere. Do yourself a favor. Do your family a favor. I've done this for me, and I've done it for my parents. Visit lifelock.com/Levin, lifelock.com/LEVIN right now, or call and use promo code Levin to save 10% on your LifeLock Ultimate membership. Here's the number. 1-800-457-LOCK, 1-800-457-LOCK. 1-800-457-LOCK. It's that simple. Network doesn't cover all transactions. I would encourage you to do this, or you may be one of the millions, if not tens of millions, who get caught up with these hackers and these breaches, and then you're trying to get your bank account straightened out or your pension funds or your name back because people steal it, and it's a disaster. J.D., Henderson, Nevada, the great KBET, their radio voice in Las Vegas. Go.
Thank you, Mark. I just want to thank you for all the education on constitutional and federalist papers. I hope you're doing well, and I hope your health is well. I wanted to ask you a little legal question. I have a little knowledge regarding this judge in Texas who put hold on 26 states. I heard today Ernest, not so earnest, like you say, for the president, telling him to stay the 24 states that are not a part of this. Isn't there something called ex parte where you cannot talk to the judge or the lawyers outside the courtroom?
It's not an ex parte issue. The issue here is a contempt of court. And I am hoping that the Texas, the lead litigant in this case, will seek a contempt order against the federal government and the Obama administration. The 24 other states are not left out of the mix. The 26 states brought the case. The federal judge ordered the federal government to stop processing papers and processing claims and preparing for this executive unconstitutional amnesty. He ordered the federal government, not 26 states. So Josh Not So Earnest has admitted openly, in public, on the record, that he and the administration are in fact in violation. The administration is in violation of the federal judge's order. It has nothing to do with the 24 states. It has everything to do with the federal government's activities. And now we have a president. Let me be the first to state this, even though I stated it last week. The federal government, the president of the United States, is in fact in contempt now of this federal judge's ruling. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Marc Levin.
Hello, everybody. Marc Levin here. This is Hour 2. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Lindsey Graham on Sunday said we need to get behind the court. He said this. Go.
Get behind the court action.
Get behind the court action. Okay, Senator, let's take you up on this. The administration is proceeding with preparations for what you admit is unconstitutional on this president's part. His amnesty by executive fiat. You've admitted this. You're a lawyer. Try and follow. Number 2, you've admitted this violates the Constitution. Number 3, you've said you support what this federal judge has done. Number 4, you said let's get behind the federal judge. Now, let's put that all together, Senator, shall we? That means Obama is in contempt of court. Now, of course, the states will have to raise this with the judge in a motion, in a brief, asking the court to hold Obama in contempt. Now, everything I'm telling you this evening will be repeated tomorrow, or it'll be on TV. Wow, that Charles. But anyway, but watching this at a distance, there's no question that Obama's in contempt. That is ignoring what the judge said. There's no question that the spokes idiot, Josh Not Earnest, saying that the 24 states that didn't participate in this lawsuit, they should proceed. The federal judge's order, which is significant, this opinion that the judge wrote is around 130 pages. It's very fulsome, very thorough. And he makes it quite clear that the federal government is not to take steps to implement this illegal amnesty until the matter is resolved by higher courts. And Obama's spokesman had said today, no, I mean, basically the 24 states should proceed. The federal government may not proceed. It's not the states, it's the federal government. So Lindsey Graham, you said get behind the court. Didn't he say that, Mr. Producer?
Get behind the court action.
Get behind the court action. So my question to Lindsey Graham, if that is his name, my question is this, Lindsey Graham. Next Sunday when you're on 12 Sunday talk shows, boy, you have a life. When you're on the Sunday talk shows, I want you to make the point, Senator, that you believe Obama's in contempt. And why don't you have the United States Senate with your leadership? We know you're such a great leader. Why don't you file a friend of the court brief and ask the district court to consider holding Obama in contempt? I'll tell you how you can do it, because I've done it before with great success. You can file a judicial letter. Landmark Legal Foundation did this way back when the great Bill Clinton, when he wasn't molesting women in the Oval Office, was defending himself against lawsuits, in particular the Paula Jones case. As you'll recall, he lied to a federal judge. Judge Susan Weber Wright, federal judge, Arkansas, flew all the way to Washington to personally watch over the deposition of B.J. Bill Jefferson Clinton. And, of course, he lied right in her face, as it turned out. She held him in civil contempt. Should have held him in criminal contempt, but held him in civil contempt. Bill Clinton refused to defend himself. In other words, in essence, he confessed guilt. As a result, he was found in contempt. That can never be washed away from his resume. He was disbarred by the Arkansas Supreme Court for 8 years and disbarred by the U.S. Supreme Court. He also had to pay court fees. He had to pay the fees involved in Judge Wright flying to Washington, and he had to pay a significant fine. But I'm innocent. I'm innocent. No, he wasn't. They had him dead to rights. And what he didn't want to do is have to go and testify in open court, questioned by the very judge who he lied to. So that was an attack on the court. That's what that's considered, and he was held in contempt. How was that triggered? That was triggered by a judicial notice. That's what it's called, this judicial letter, that was filed by Landmark Legal Foundation. And in this judicial notice, you probably can find it online somewhere on Landmark Legal Foundation's site if we still have it up there, we laid out, nuts and bolts, the case against Clinton and his contempt of court. I guess what I'm trying to tell you, Lindsey Graham, Senator, South Carolina, if that is your name, you said get behind the court. Well, then get behind the court. You Republicans in the Senate who are running around beating your chest about how you want to uphold the law, but this is a bad strategy. Get behind the judge. We're going to file a friend of the court brief. Why don't you go ahead and file the judicial notice, Lindsey Graham? You can wake up John McCain. He has no idea what the hell I'm talking about. But you might. Why don't you do that if you want to get behind the judge? Otherwise, you're a complete fraud, and I suspect you are. Now, I don't mean to focus on him specifically. There are many of them who are complete frauds. Jay Johnson on CNN yesterday warns of a threat against the Mall of America. Is it a threat from these right-wingers that his department said need to be watched? Or is it the Islamo-Nazis? Which is it? Cut 5, go.
I am very concerned about the serious potential threat of independent actors here in the United States. We've seen
Stop. What independent actors? What is it with these mealy-mouthed buffoons? I'm concerned about these, these independent actors. Well, who are they? Oh, can't say. Well, that's very, I'm certainly glad then that we're funding the Department of Homeland Security if we can't say who these independent actors are. And furthermore, they haven't even acted yet, Mr. Producer. How does he know they're independent? Here we have the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security talking about independent actors. They haven't even acted yet, so how does he know they're independent? How does he know they're not part of some Islamo-Nazi effort? And in fact, they are. Because this threat was made by a group, not independent actors, Islamo-Nazis. Yeah, but the Department of Homeland Security's put out this report. Watch out for the right-wingers. Continue, please.
In Europe, we've seen this in Canada.
But specifically against the Mall of America.
Anytime a terrorist organization calls for an attack on a specific place...
Let's stop right there. This is what amazes me. Now it's a terrorist organization. I thought we were worried about independent actors. Now we're worried about a terrorist organization. So, if somebody is part of or responding to a terrorist organization, how is it that they're an independent actor? An independent actor is some lowlife who's living in his mother's basement, sitting there in his boxer shorts, hasn't showered for 8 days, eating ice cream out of the box, and then decides, because he's some kind of nut job, maybe he's a political nut job or a secularist, like that nut that killed the American Muslims and so forth and so on. That's an independent actor. But responding to or being part of a call by the Islamo-Nazis to shoot up a mall or blow it up, that's not an independent actor. Go ahead.
Got to take that seriously. And so through our intelligence bulletins, through working with state and local law enforcement, through working with the FBI, we take this kind of thing very seriously.
What are you telling Americans who might be planning a trip to the mall this Sunday?
What we're telling the public in general is you've got to be vigilant.
You've got to be vigilant? What does that mean? You've got to be vigilant? Okay, how is a liberal to be vigilant? You're not to look at people who are from other countries or may look differently than you. Differently. You're not to profile in fact or in mind. Okay, great. Somebody acting suspicious. What do you mean somebody acting suspicious? You mean just walking around or loading a Glock? So we have to be vigilant, but don't look funny at certain people and don't check them out because then you're a racist. Ooh. Acting vigilant to me is, in the states where you can, well, getting a permit. The enemy doesn't get permits. The enemy doesn't go to state law enforcement or local law enforcement or even the feds to get weapons. They just get them. So if you live in a state where you're allowed to protect yourself, obviously law-abiding, follow the rules, that's what I'm talking about. That's acting vigilantly. Not like a vigilante, vigilantly. Because just, you got to be vigilant, I don't know what that means, neither does this jerk. He has no idea what that means. Oh, when you're in the, just be vigilant. Well, what about these people covered head to toe with just the eyes, like throwbacks to the 7th? Can I look over? No, don't look over there. No. What's wrong with you? Oh, okay. We got the government telling us about our subconscious racism. So, if you're liberal, I don't know, how are you vigilant if you're a liberal? I guess you order things online. You don't go to the mall, I guess. So, there's a credible threat at the Mall of America. Or is there? The Obama administration is not sure. I'll explain it in a minute.
Marc Levin.
You know, folks, these people work for us. I don't care if they call themselves senator or congressman or press secretary or president or whatever the hell they are. If they lie to us, if they participate in the dissolution of this republic, they have no respect from me. And they need to be knocked down a few notches. I don't get all excited about meeting senators or congressmen. Certainly wouldn't about meeting this president or some cabinet secretary. They're human beings and they're badly flawed. And they want these positions of power. They want to make decisions involving our lives. They want to make decisions about the future of the country. And they get into these positions, many of them, by lying through their teeth with no intention of following through on any of it. That's why I am repulsed by Lindsey Graham and John McCain. That's why I'm repulsed by Barack Obama. That's why I'm repulsed at what's going on in this country. The facts are not as they present them. They lied to us repeatedly. Lindsey Graham went on TV and lied through his teeth and gave aid and comfort to Obama's unconstitutional actions while pretending otherwise. John McCain is doing exactly the same thing. The Department of Homeland Security, please repeat this to friends, neighbors, co-workers, will not shut down. Period. The Border Patrol will be at the border. The Secret Service will be doing what they do. The TSA will be doing what it does. And I'll prove it to you. If the Republicans don't buckle and you're getting on an airplane, the TSA will be there. And the reporters know damn well when they go to the White House to report on what's going on, get their talking points from Obama and burp them up, they're going to see the Secret Service, uniform and non-uniform. You go to the border, those towers, those posts are going to be manned. So it's a flat-out lie. And I'm the only one repeatedly making this point. Because I will not buckle to these lies, period. Moreover, the idea that every penny spent at DHS is a penny for national security and homeland security is a flat-out lie as well. It's loaded with pork. It's loaded with fat. But that's not even debated anymore. The Republicans have given up. They gave Obama the budget he wanted, and now they want to give him this budget too if they can. The Democrats hold together. They would not allow a vote today. I think it's the fourth time. They would not allow a vote on funding, quote unquote, the Department of Homeland Security, but carving out Obama's unconstitutional action. They wouldn't allow it. And then Obama goes on and on about the TSA, the Secret Service. This is how diabolical the left is and how diabolical Republicans are who agree to this. Victory in sight. And they're on TV on Sunday, stabbing their own party in the back. When finally the party's standing up. I'm just as conservative as everybody else, they say. Meanwhile, Jay Johnson, that clown, runs the Department of Homeland Security. You just heard him. This is very serious. Take very seriously these threats against the Mall of America and these other malls and so forth and so on. That's out of one side of the administration's mouth. Then there's Josh, not Ernest, the spokes idiot. Cut 6, go.
The fact of the matter is, the intelligence community has indicated that there's no specific credible plot against the mall, and that essentially.
All right, he rambles on, and I'm not interested in him rambling on my program right now. So they're not aware of any specific credible plot against the Mall of America, or any mall for that matter. So which is it? Being vigilant? Ooh, go to the mall. Ooh, looking over my shoulder. Look at those people. No, don't look at those people. I'll be a racist. Look at that. No, don't look at that. Look at the guy. No, don't look at that guy. Oops. How am I to be vigilant? And then Josh Ernest. Look, there's no problem. Why be vigilant? We have no specific threat. None whatsoever. Not at the Mall of America or anywhere else. That's this administration. Pathetic, mindless, incompetent, ideological. Awful. Absolutely awful. Let's take a call, shall we? Let's move quickly. Rick, Harker Heights, Texas, on the Marc Levin app. Quickly, go, sir.
Hello, Mark. Thanks for taking my call. I've been listening to you for the past couple of days about this DHS shutdown, and I'm going crazy. Why can't, one would think for any sort of plan that Bonner would sit down with McConnell and they talk about it, and they'd say what they're going to do. Bonner should say, well, we're going to do this in the House, and then we're going to pass this over. It's going to be in your court, the Senate. You guys.
Well, I have to say, Boehner and the Republicans in the House have done the right thing. They've done the right thing. It's the Senate. And that it's not the whole Senate. You got a couple of these buffoons, they're independent, peeling off. Now, if Ted Cruz stood up to the Republican caucus in the Senate on principled grounds, on conservative grounds, they'd be trashing him. But Lindsey Graham and McCain peeling off, and you'll watch the Susan Collins and Mark Kirk and the Corker and Alexander and the other buffoons. They'll follow suit. I'll be right back.
The establishment's worst nightmare. Marc Levin. Call in now. 877-381-3811.
Blinds.com, baby. When I'm considering a product online, I see only a few questionable reviews, I'm out of there. On the other hand, Blinds.com has nearly 30,000 real and unfiltered reviews from people just like you. That's impressive. What's even more impressive is what they say. You can read all about the good, the bad, and the beautiful of their customer shopping experience and the product selection. These reviews read just like love notes. This company is just that good. Their products and their service is unbelievable. It's unparalleled. Customer Tammy from California says, I love the quality of these blinds. I've been updating the blinds in my house one room at a time. On my 6th order, I made a measuring error, but with Sure Fit protection, I was able to get the correct measured blind without a problem. Customer service is awesome. I will be back for more. That's what she said. Now, if you got a question, easy. There are over 100 design experts just to call, live online chat, or free video consult away. And as always, you'll get free color samples, free shipping, and free expert design advice. That is very cool. And this month, you can save up to 20% off already great prices on top designer blinds, shades, shutters, and drapes. This is the place to go. They make it easy. They make it fun. They help you every step of the way. And if you make a mistake, they take care of that too. Blinds.com. Blinds.com, where prices crush prices you'll find in stores. Blinds.com. That's Blinds.com. And by the way, when you're getting out of the website, you're about to leave, and that menu pops down, and they want to know from where you heard about them, make sure you click the Marc Levin Show. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's really no good place to put this. There's really no good place to talk about this. This is extremely troubling, what I'm going to play for you. It's extremely troubling. Michael Steele is the former chair of the Republican National Committee. Michael Steele is the former lieutenant governor of Maryland. Michael Steele is treated with enormous respect and support within the Republican Party and among others. I want you to hear what he said on MSNBC today, a.k.a. MSLSD. Hat tip our buddy Brian at Right Scoop. Cut 8, go.
And so what the party has to do is have its own sort of internal come to Jesus. Do we really want black folks to vote for us? Do we really see them as a viable constituency as they once were within our party? And unless a leader in the party is prepared to stand up and answer that affirmatively and tell the rest of the party to get in line and follow the course of America, the natural course, not only of the country, but more importantly of our party, that this is intrinsic to us, it's just, I don't see the viability. It's hard to go to a black black audience and say legitimately, we want you, when everything we do says we don't.
Now, what is it that we do, Michael Steele, that says we don't? The hell are you talking about, man? What an outrageous statement. Do you have to say these things to be on MSLSD? Really? I don't hear this from anybody. I don't see this from anybody. There's a battle within the Republican Party among real Reagan conservatives and the frauds. But nobody is saying they don't want the black vote. Even more, the more conservative wing of the Republican Party has been and is promoting school choice, the biggest civil rights issue of our time. Liberating youth, minorities, from these crime-infested, incompetent-infested public school systems in our inner cities. This is something that's been pushed by conservatives, including my legal foundation, Landmark, for decades. Obama shut it down in Washington, D.C. Does this sound like somebody or some group of Republicans who's against blacks or any minorities for that matter? Do you have to embrace the radical left agenda to demonstrate that you care about people? This is exactly the problem. All generalities, all crap out of this guy's mouth. What the party has to do, and who would that be, Michael Steele? You? Reince Priebus? Lindsey Graham? What does the party have to do? Let me tell you what the party has to do. You say return to its roots? Well, its roots aren't about a massive central government. Its roots aren't about a massive debt. They're not about a ubiquitous federal government. They're not about a massive entitlement state. White, black, brown, yellow, red, and in between. What the party has to do, Michael Steele, is advance the cause of liberty, opportunity, ownership, self-respect, free will, hard work. That's what the party has to do. And the way you do that is not through massive government spending, borrowing, and edicts. The Republican Party should be the party of liberation. Liberating the economy. Liberating poor kids out of these awful school systems. I don't remember Lieutenant Governor Michael Steele doing any of these things. Yeah, I tell you, it's just awful. This guy, with this comment. The party has to do is have its own sort of internal come-to-Jesus moment. Look at the Senate. Look at the Senate. We're constantly playing paint by color with this administration, and now I guess with Michael Steele. How many black Democrat senators are there? I think there's one, Cory Booker. And isn't it interesting, Michael Steele doesn't focus on that. There's as many Republican black senators, Tim Scott. But you would think that a party that gets over 90% of its vote from the black community would have more than one black senator. If I misspoken, I'm sorry. I haven't done my my color chart lately, but I think that's right. I think that's right. And when black Republicans come forward and black conservatives come forward, they are trashed. They are trashed. They are brutalized. They're not allowed to exist. So what is it about our come to Jesus moment, Michael Steele, that you're talking about? Now, these guys act like they're all outsiders. This guy was a lieutenant governor. This guy headed the Republican National Committee. Did things improve, quote unquote, when he was in these powerful positions? No, they didn't. No, they didn't. I guess Michael Steele didn't care about the black vote. I guess he didn't have his come to Jesus moment. I guess he likes burping his crap all over MSNBC. As far as I'm concerned, I used to like this guy. But I don't like it when he plays the knee-jerk left-wing game. He should be on MSNBC talking to this very issue in an intelligent way. Talking up the conservative approach to schooling, the conservative approach to the economy, the conservative approach to immigration, and even the social issues. But he doesn't. And he won't. That's pretty damn gutless, if you ask me. Just my opinion. Let's take some calls here. I really don't like saying these things about him, but I mean, this is a pretty damn outrageous statement. And every now and then he does it, and I usually ignore it. But if he's going to throw in with the nut jobs on the left with these kind of comments, then I'm going to respond to it. He must want to be responded to. Jandon, San Jose, California. Wonderful town. XM Satellite. Go.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me tonight.
Yes.
Hey, I just wanted to ask you if you know of any prosecutions or any kind of domestic right-wing terrorist plots that have been foiled by the FBI and DHS in the past 5 years.
Well, look, there may be. I mean, there are nut jobs out there, but they're not. They use this word right because they try and drag mainstream traditional conservatives into, neo-Nazi activity and Klan activity and nut job activity. We reject all that stuff, all of it. When I talk about individual sovereignty, it's hilarious. Oh, they talk about individual sovereignty. That's the whole Enlightenment. The whole Enlightenment's talking about individual sovereignty. Oh, no, you must be a Klansman. Oh, yeah, Mark the Jew is a Klansman. Oh, you must be a neo-Nazi. No, this is outrageous, what the Department of Homeland Security has done. Are there so-called right-wing nut jobs out there, neo-Nazis and Klansmen? I will tell you, yes. And Mr. Producer and Mr. Call Screener will tell you that they call here constantly and they have to be cleaned out of our system, don't they, boys? And on our social sites, our administrator says he's taking them down constantly. So they're attacking me as a conservative. They're attacking me as a Jew. And I'm just making the point that in terms of taking down our country, in terms of trying to blow up our cities, I mean, there may be some threats there that I'm not aware of. But I do know that the Islamo-Nazi regime in Iran that we're coddling up to, I do know that the various Islamo-Nazi spin-off terrorist groups, they're all talking about blowing up our cities and so forth and so on. And no, don't use the word Islam. Use the word right-wing. All right, thank you for your call. Let's continue. And by the way, how about these left-wing nut groups? How come the DHS isn't putting out stuff on these Marxist groups? The groups that are sort of the proteges of, Bill Ayers, Obama's buddy? Yeah, Bernardine Dorn, Obama's buddy. All I know is I've never in my life, ever, been around, stayed around, socialized with, befriended, co-wrote books with a domestic terrorist like Barack Obama has. Never. And I never intend to, and I never will. That's the amazing thing. If some nutjob out there does something, Mr. Producer and I immediately say, please don't have one of my books, because my books are responsible, but it has nothing to do with it. One of the leftists will say, oh, look, Levin. Meanwhile, Obama, his ghostwriter, we are told, in part is Bill Ayers, and that's no big deal. I've never seen anything like it. It's so outrageous. Hey, what are you, racist? Dan, Lady Lake, Florida, Sirius Satellite, go. Dan, you're on the air. The whole world awaits your
Mark,
words of wisdom.
This is Dan.
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we know. Go.
All right, sorry. Listen, I had an epiphany. When you said Saul Alinsky rule number 4...
Well, you can take some medicine for that.
Unbelievable. It was unbelievable. That's exactly what he did. Now, here's the question. Most of the public never heard of Saul Alinsky. How the heck do we get out?
Well, I'm going to go door to door, knock on their doors, and tell each one of them. Well, people ask me this all the time, like I have an answer. How are we going to make sure the American people know everything that Mark says? All I can do is speak to 8.5 million people. I can't speak to 315 million people.
Well, I guess the bigger question is not you speaking, but we're fighting the biggest super PAC in the world. That's ABC, NBC, CBS, the Washington Times, the Washington Post, the New York Times. We got public radio.
All right, yes. Well, I'll tell you how, Dan. You can talk to 20 people. Kurt on hold can talk to 20 people. Maureen on hold can talk to 20 people. Franklin can talk to 20 people. Eddie can talk to 20 people. Nancy can talk to 20 people. So do it.
To surprise you, I started AMAC.
You started AMAC.
It's me, Dan Weber. And I got 1.2 million, but it's still not enough, Mark. What do we do?
Dan, I'll ask you. What do we do?
Well, I'm building AMAC. Thank God for you. But we just got to grow and grow, and thanks to you, we're over 1 million.
See that, baby? Stick with me.
Okay, I'm going to. God bless us all.
All right, take care. Well, I wasn't expecting that, Mr. Producer. As a matter of fact, AMAC is up next. Dan? Dan's
yes, sir.
A good man. You're a good entrepreneur, Dan.
Well, I learned from you, Mark. You're sharp. Our enemies are sharp. We got to be sharper.
All right, you take care, Dan. I'll be back with AMAC in a minute.
Marc Levin.
AMAC. Our buddy Dan just called. He's the founder. Glad I wasn't too rough on Dan. You know, my friends, over the last several years, you've heard me talk about what a great advocacy group AMAC is, and it's true. It's a conservative group promoting freedom principles. But AMAC offers its members more than just advocacy. AMAC membership also gives you access to a comprehensive and growing list of exceptional benefits and discounts. Now listen to this. Medicare products, auto insurance, roadside assistance plans, savings on hotels and car rentals, discount dental and vision plans, an AMAC credit card with a great rewards program, and much more. If you're a member of the AARP and you're my listener, what the hell for? Why are you subsidizing your own demise? This big bloated group, much of which is subsidized by the federal government, when you have an alternative like AMAC. Listen to this. A $16 annual AMAC membership can save you hundreds over the course of the year, and all this from an organization that works on behalf of you, not against you. Now, you know where AMAC stands. They stand with us, firmly. We should stand with them. If you're looking for exceptional money-saving benefits from an organization that stands up for conservative values, the choice is clear. It's unequivocal. There is no choice. Join AMAC. Join AMAC today. All you have to do is go to www.amac.us. That's www.amac.us. Because AMAC is better for you, and better for America. Let's see here. How about Kurt, Fort Worth, Texas, the great WBAP? Go.
Greetings, Mark. That was a bit of kismet with Mr. Dan Weber of AMAC, and I enjoyed that. And you can tell, well, if he's probably listening, he's got 1.2 million and one customers, because I know exactly the reason why I would want to join AMAC and not AARP, and I think that's been articulated by you well enough that I don't need to go into that. But he was also quite right about the ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, NPR conglomerate super PAC, and I don't believe a word they say, and this is me talking, not you. I'm afraid to say even a bit of Fox, because Fox has not dissected this DHS funding problem properly, and I think any clear-headed person would agree with me. John McCain and Lindsey Graham want a clean bill. That's what they really want. They want to fund DHS so that Obama's unlawful, unconstitutional orders can be paid for.
I agree with you. They want to have it both ways. They want to hide behind the judge. They don't, and then it goes to the circuit court. It might go to the Supreme Court. And in the meantime, potentially millions of people will get all these benefits and locked in. You're exactly right. So, in essence, McCain and Graham, and there will be others, because you can see this growing cabal of underminers. There will be others who will, in the end, support the amnesty while pretending they don't. They were for amnesty before they were against it. Great call, Kurt. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Marc Levin.
Hello, everybody. Marc Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. I have a question. Why don't these same politicians who worry about phony government shutdowns, because that's what we're talking about, these are phony, why don't they take to the airwaves and warn the American people when industries are being shut down as a result of government policies? Which is far more serious. Because those employees are out of work. It's not that their pay is delayed. They're gone. They're done. And many of them drop out of the workforce, or they're forced to go on welfare or unemployment or what have you. That's very serious business. And yet I don't see the compassion from Lindsey Graham or John McCain when our coal mines are being shut down. Do you? I don't see them concerned about the Environmental Protection Agency driving up the price of electricity. I don't see them on TV talking about that. Do you? I don't see them talking about illegal immigrants who violate their temporary visas, taking jobs away from American citizens. I don't see them talking about that. Do you? Which is exactly why they won't come on this program and talk about it. Visas like tourist visas, B2 visas, B1 visas, business visas, C visas for transit, D visas for crew members, F visas for students, G visas for international organization representatives, H1 special occupation visas for IT experts, H2 seasonal work visas, J visas for training, M visas for students in non-academic institutions. And I can go on and on and on. They're not concerned about the American people. They don't express their concern about people who violate these visas, even though they're interviewed in their home countries. They're interviewed when they come here at the port of entry. And they lie twice. And they lie on their applications. And they overstay their visas. And some of them go on welfare. Some of them take jobs from other people. All of them are liars. Not a word. No, they're worried about some part of the government shutting down. I'm not worried about some part of the government shutting down. I want it to shut down. No, but not them. We have assembly lines shutting down, coal mines shutting down, steel mills shutting down, the industrial heartland's under attack by the radical anti-capitalists at the EPA and the Interior Department? Nothing. Not a word. And as I said, these employees are out of luck and they're out of work. It's not like, they got to go to work and they don't get paid. And they will get paid in the federal government, but they won't get paid in the private sector. Isn't it amazing how government-centric we are? I'm not going to be part of a government shutdown. What about the coal mines? What coal mines? What about commercial fishermen? Not only is their job brutal, there's less and less of it because our federal agencies are putting them out of business. What are you talking about? So anyway, we have this idiot, Patricia Arquette. I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to really focus on her, but she's a foil. They each got their bag of bling, $125,000 to $150,000, while they're concerned about the little people. They're wearing their gowns and their jewelry and their $800 hairdos. And hey, wow, look. Their makeup. Hit Rodeo Drive over and over and over again. And then they go on I'm very worried about, immigration. I'm very, very worried that women aren't being paid the same as men. There's a woman who gets paid almost more than any man. Just saying. As they go on and on about this stuff. But the fact of the matter is, this so-called pay gap really is not that significant. The Labor Department put out its own report, if I can find the damn thing. Here it is. It's from the Labor Department, January 12, 2009. An analysis of the reasons for the disparity in wages between men and women. Final report prepared for the U.S. Department of Labor. CONSAD Research Corporation, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Somebody send this to Patricia Arquette. I didn't even know she was alive, quite frankly. I don't even know who the hell she is. Ooh, she won an Oscar. Great, who cares? It's like a Nobel Prize. Let me continue. Listen to this. This is from your Labor Department. I didn't make it up. The hell do we have a Labor Department for anyway? Another day. During the past 3 decades, women have made, this is from them, notable gains in the workplace and in pay equity, including increased labor force participation, substantial gains in educational attainment, employment growth in higher-paying occupations, and significant gains in real earnings. Oh, my God. Say it ain't so. You mean there's progress? There's good stuff going on? Let me continue. In 1970, about 43% of women aged 16 and older were in the labor force. By 2007, over 59% were in the labor force. In 1970, only 17.9% of women aged 25 and older had gone to college. By 2000, almost half had gone to college. And by 2006, 1/3 of the women in the labor force held a college degree. In other words, they're showing enormous progress. And progress in this sense, women who wanted to enter the workforce, more and more college degrees, more and more jobs. 2007, women accounted for 51% of all workers in high-paying management, professional, and related occupations. 51%. They outnumbered men in such occupations as financial managers, human resource managers, education administrators, medical and health services managers, and accountants and auditors. Did you even know that? Do you think Patricia Arquette knows that? How many T's in Arquette? How many Q's in Arquette? How many IQs in Arquette? Let's continue, shall we? In 1970, the median usual weekly earnings for women working full-time was only 62.1% of those for men. By 2007, the raw wage gap had shrunk from 37.9% to just 21.5%. However, they go on, despite these gains, the raw wage gaps continue to be used in misleading ways to advance public policy agendas without fully explaining the reasons behind the gap. This is your Labor Department report. The purpose of this report, and I'm only looking at the forward because it's quite long, is to identify the reasons that explain the wage gap in order to more fully inform policymakers and the public and Hollywood dingbats. The following report, prepared by CONSAD Research Corporation, our federal government pays for all this crap. Every now and then we ought to read some of it. Presents the results of a detailed statistical analysis of the attributes that contribute to the wage gap and a synopsis of the economic research that's been conducted on the issue. Oh, my goodness. So scholarly. There are observable differences in the attributes of men and women that account for most of the wage gap. Ready? Statistical analysis that includes those variables has produced results that collectively account for between 65.1 and 76.4% of a raw gender wage gap of 20.4%, and thereby leave an adjusted gender wage gap between 4.8 and 7.1%. Well, what are these variables? What are they talking about? Well, here's the kicker. A greater percentage of women than men tend to work part-time. Part-time work tends to pay less than full-time work. Wow. A greater percentage of women than men tend to leave the labor force for childbirth. Well, I would say no men leave the workforce for actual childbirth. Now, if they're going to participate in the process, yes. But let me continue. A greater percentage of women than men tend to leave the labor force for childbirth, child care, and elder care. Some of the wage gap is explained by the percentage of women who were not in the labor force during previous years, the age of women, and the number of children in the home. Women, especially working mothers, tend to value family-friendly workplace policies more than men. Some of the wage gap is explained by industry and occupation, particularly the percentage of women who work in the industries and occupations. In other words, they're saying that men are drawn to certain types of work environments and women are drawn to other types of work environments. Not all the time, but some of the time. There's so much that's involved in this. So when women only get 71% of what men get, the politicians who are saying this have access to the very report that I'm reading from. They know that's bullcrap. They know it's apples and oranges. Research also suggests that differences not incorporated into the model due to data limitations may account for part of the remaining gap. Specifically, Consat's model and much of the literature, including the Bureau of Labor Statistics highlights of women's earnings, focus on wages rather than total compensation. Research indicates that women may value non-wage benefits like health care more than men do, and as a result prefer to take a greater portion of their compensation in the form of health insurance and other fringe benefits. In principle, more of the raw wage gap could be explained by including some additional variables within a single. It goes on. Number 1, part-time versus full-time jobs. Number 2, work experience. Number 3, seniority. Number 4, attracted to sometimes different work environments. Number 5, the raw wage gap does not include benefits. And what they're saying is if you include all the variables that they took into consideration, and by the way, there are many more, the so-called wage gap is between 4.8 and 7.1% for the exact jobs that people do. And if you're one of those people, and there's no reason to be 4.8 or 7.1% behind in wages for a male counterpart doing exactly the same thing with exactly the same experience for exactly as long, you have a federal lawsuit. And you've had a federal lawsuit for decades. Decades. And yet, this idiot in Hollywood, I don't listen to them. I didn't watch the damn thing. Apparently she gets up and talks about pay equity for women, and they're all jumping up. All the millionaires and equity. It has no effect on them whatsoever, what they're talking about. And, of course, they won't read this report. Nobody will read this report. I read this report, and that's why I'm reporting it to you. Mr. Producer, we will link to this right after the show on the website, as we always do with all of our information, so you can look at it yourselves. And I recommend you print it out, at least the summary part of it. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
You know, I'm going to be objective about something, as I always am, quite frankly, but something I wouldn't normally comment on. Brian Williams has been rightly accused of serial lying about his stories. One example after another, where he's fabricated stories or he's embellished them in a very significant way. And he's not doing the NBC Nightly News, and he shouldn't be doing it. I have no personal animus against this man. By all accounts, he's a very decent and generous person. He's a dog lover and so forth. But it is what it is. And so the hardcore leftists they're trying to find a conservative, not even a conservative, somebody else, as on Fox, where they can try and distract from Brian Williams, distract from big lib media, and try and argue in the alternative. Wow, others do it. And so they went after O'Reilly, Bill O'Reilly. Everybody knows I'm not a big Bill O'Reilly fan, but that's beside the point. O'Reilly reported over 30 years ago that he was involved in a riot situation in, I believe it was Argentina, and that there was violence and that the police shot live ammo, and he was there and so forth and saw it. And so this left-wing kook, and he's always been a left-wing kook, this Engberg, the old man, he's in his 70s, I think he's retired. I may not even be pronouncing his name right, but I used to watch him on TV and said, God, what a big-time lib this guy is. Richard, what is his name? Do you know Mr. B. Richard Engberg, whatever his name is? They have concocted this story that O'Reilly was lying about the situation. Well, O'Reilly wasn't lying about the situation. And Brian Williams really is in a class of his own with the extent, the serial nature, and blatantness of his behavior. Now, the lib media lie all the time. It's institutionalized. That's their agenda. The lib media represent government. That's what they represent. If you're a liberal and you support big government, the media are with you. That's the big story to me. The media really, there's nothing independent about it. It's not even just about liberalism. The media support big government, big bureaucracies. They do not support the Constitution. They support the federal government, centralized government, not state governments unless they're blue and left. Yes, it was Buenos Aires, June 1982. So this Engel guy, I think that's his, I wish I could remember his name. He said, no, there wasn't violence. No, there wasn't rioting. No, bullets weren't fired. And he's wrong. And David Korn, who's a left-wing hack / journalist, is out there pushing the story, as are other leftists. And it's simply not true. So I thought I'd comment on it. I've been pretty tough on O'Reilly because I think he's been pretty tough on other people in ways that I don't appreciate. Not because he's a great journalist, just because his ego's out of control. But that said, he's absolutely right about this. And those who are accusing him have egg all over their faces. And really, this is the way the left operates. They try and take somebody out as a defense of the indefensible. When we come back, there's another poll on whether you think taxes should be raised on the wealthy. So, the Associated Press and GFK did a poll, and 68% of those questions said wealthy households pay too little in federal taxes. Only 11% said the wealthy pay too much. 60% said middle-class households pay too much in federal taxes, while 7% said they pay too little. Here again, I'm making the point that we live in a world of lies. We're surrounded by myths and dissembling and distortions. Whether it's immigration and the immigration laws and what they actually... Oh, it's Eric Engberg. E-N-G-B-E-R-G. Engberg, that's the guy. But I want to get back to this because part of what we do here is unravel these lies that go on and on and on and on, so you have the facts. I'll be right back.
The Marc Levin Show, live and national at 877-381-3811.
Many alarm companies rob you blind. Isn't that ironic? They steal from your freedom. Now, how do they do this? By locking you into one of these hideous long-term contracts. You're trapped for years. You have no say. You have no voice. And then you pay thousands. They make you pay thousands. You can't get out of it because you've signed the dotted line. There's a better way to protect your home. Simply Safe Home Security. These are the guys I trust. Simply Safe has no long-term contracts, no commitments. You get peace of mind without getting locked in. And it's a proven cutting-edge technology. Wireless, built by the best engineers in the country, no landline needed, so no drilling in your walls, no landlines are cut. It's just perfect. It's trusted by experts. It's used by police departments. You'll know around the clock that your home is safe. The best part, 24/7 professional monitoring, just $15 a month. That's less than half what other alarm companies charge. It's the best value in home security. Get safe the smart way. Go to simplysafemark.com. Get right now and you'll get 10% off. Simply Safe, by the way, it's spelled S-I-M-P-L-I, not Y-I. Simplysafemark.com. That's simplysafemark.com. I've got this on my house. I trust it completely. It really is very, very cool technology and the best you can get. Let's go through this again. Let's tax the rich, because this is really a Marxist mentality, bourgeois versus proletariat. Since the progressive movement, it has become almost, sadly, just part of the accepted propaganda in this country. 100 years ago, people would never have even dreamed of it. Because then they understood success is hard work, and hard work is the labor somebody applies to something and belongs to them. Today it's, oh, what does he have over there? Oh, yeah, raise taxes so I can get more. Now let's go through this. The best data we have is from 2011. It's only gotten worse in terms of who doesn't pay taxes, as a bigger and bigger percentage of the nation doesn't, while getting more and more benefits. And this is intentional, and it's also unsustainable. The top 1%, pay 35% of all federal income taxes. That's the top 1%. Pay 35% of all federal income taxes. Now, that top 1%, and it could be a family, it could be a small business, depending on how they pay their taxes, that's $388,905 and above. Not even millionaires. The top 5%, pay 56.5% of federal income taxes. That's $167,728 and above. The top 10% pay almost 70% of all federal income taxes. That's $120,000 a year. The top 25% pay 86% of all federal income taxes. That's $71,000 above and above. Then we have the top 50% who pay almost all of it. That's $35,000 and above. The bottom 50% pay 2.89% of all federal income taxes. That's $35,000 and below. And a significant percentage of the bottom 50% pay no federal income taxes. In fact, get the Earned Income Tax Credit and other federal subsidies. That will now include a whole bunch of illegal aliens. But I just want to be clear about this, because people are confused given the left-wing political propaganda that is endless, that is Marxist, that is class warfare. The top 1% do pay their fair share. Now, what I support is one of two things. Either the fair tax, which is a national sales tax, but I know a lot of people support it, but I in particular support a flat tax, where the percentage is the same across the board, but a kind of a hybrid flat tax, as I write about in the Liberty Amendments. That is, the top percentage never goes above 15% for anybody, but underneath or within that 15% there can be gradations. Should Congress want gradations. But 15% is it. I would also limit the percentage of the gross domestic product that the federal government can spend. I put it at 17.5%. And it would gradually reduce. Right now it's in the 20s, 23, 24%. Over time it would go down. Because in order to have a vibrant economy, in order to have real economic opportunity, in order that even the poorest among us can become among the richest among us, it has to happen in the private sector. It's not going to happen with the government. The government grows poverty. The private sector grows wealth. That's the difference. So I thought you should know this, but it won't matter because, they'll shove a microphone in somebody's face or who should pay more? Oh, or the rich. What are the rich? Who are the rich? What do they pay? Oh, I don't know. They should just pay more. Again, part of the problem is Republicans don't talk about this. They don't address it. And they should. I'm sure Michael Steele will. I mean, he's out there talking about all kinds of crap. I mean, brilliant stuff. Meanwhile, it is amazing to me all the issues that are discussed and one barely gets noticed, and yet it matters to the American people more than anything else. That's their finances in this economy. And according to a newly released report from Bankrate, which is a great website, by the way, Bankrate, CNBC reports, 24% of Americans have more credit card debt than emergency savings. 13% are not much better off. They don't have credit card debt, but they don't have emergency savings. Put another way, more than a third of the American people are living at risk of financial crisis. And you see, Michael Steele, this is what needs to be addressed. Because this affects everybody, regardless of skin pigmentation, ancestry, genitalia, what they do with their genitalia, whether they keep their genitalia or add genitalia. This is a fact that affects everybody. Americans are woefully undersaved for emergencies, said Greg McBride, chief financial analyst at Bankrate. By not having emergency savings and using some of your available credit, your options in the event of unplanned expenses are much more limited. And this is my gravest fear. The federal government is becoming so debt-ridden. It is so massive, ladies and gentlemen. As I'm writing this book, I'm just doing more and more research. The federal government now has effectively assumed as the backup the student loan system. That's over $1 trillion in loans. It's got unfunded liabilities of anywhere now from $120 to $200 trillion. It's got on-budget debt, because it hides most of it off-budget, of around $18.5, $18.6 trillion. When you add in states and public school systems in particular, they have debt of over $400 billion. The debt owed to teachers in the form of pensions and health care for the rest of their lives. $499 billion. Where's this money going to come from? There's got to be a day of reckoning. And this is the gravest concern I have, and you should have, for what's going on internally in this country. And on top of that, we just keep adding freebies. Free community college. There's no money. Who's going to pay for that? It just never stops. But it will stop. Not because any politician is going to stop it, but because the laws of economics are going to kick in. The politicians make it worse. worse with their spending, their profligacy. The Republicans, too. This grew under George W. Bush in a massive way. Under a Republican-controlled House, and now a Republican-controlled House and Senate, they were so happy they got this omnibus spending bill with Obama. They don't make any cuts in the debt, not one penny. They grow the debt year after year. Then we get the phonies at the Wall Street Journal editorial page every time the debt ceiling comes up, demanding that the Republicans buckle to the biggest spending president in world history. But they're said to be conservative and libertarian. And then on top of that, we're told we need to import more and more poor people because that will build the economy as they line up for welfare benefits, for Social Security benefits, for Medicare benefits, as they line up for earned income tax credit. A bigger and bigger and bigger drain on our massive federal welfare system and entitlement system. I just don't see this ending well. And then when you look at your personal lives, so many people, you're not in position to survive 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years of an economic catastrophe. Look what happened to the housing boom and bust, spurred on by the federal government. The Department of Justice, HUD, the Federal Reserve, Congress, presidents, pushing, home ownership. Yes, if you can afford a home. Now under the Obama, people are getting car loans. They can't afford the car loans because under Dodd-Frank, the bureaucracy there is pushing banks and other institutions to make loans to people who can't afford them. It's so completely out of control. You know, when I think about this, when I take it all in, and hopefully you too, it should make you realize just how right we are. Not the phony pseudo-conservatives who come up with these silly, passive, timid arguments that really don't address the urgency and perilousness of the problem. When you look at the Republican Party that has absolutely no agenda for addressing this, when you look at the damn fool media that are busy running around only asking Republican candidates their view on evolution, and then you look at the Democrats constantly pushing for spending, and the Republicans constantly going along. Look at Lindsey Graham and John McCain. Look at Boehner cutting the omnibus budget bill behind the scenes last summer. Look at McConnell. He stands up for nothing. Well, then we have a disaster on our hands. Oh, you must be an alarmist. Quite the contrary. I use reason, rationality. These are the facts. These are the facts. And they're scary as hell. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
You're like many Americans. Well, you know the Constitution is important. But do we really understand the rights and liberties that it allows us to enjoy every day? You know, the Constitution belongs to us. Doesn't belong to Obama or Lindsey Graham or any federal judge. That is your birthright. Hillsdale College has declared 2015 the year of the Constitution. And they teach it better than anyone else. In fact, every student who attends Hillsdale College, regardless of their major, is required to master a course on the Constitution. This is a really special place. Now this course is available to you online for free. Every one of us. Well, we owe it to ourselves to understand the Constitution. We can't have freedom without it. We owe it to our families to encourage them to understand it too. As I've said many, many times, you need to be the Paul and Paulette Reveres. You need to spread the word. And Hillsdale wants to help you. The course is Constitution 101, and it's provided free as part of Hillsdale's basic mission to defend liberty. So register for free right now, so you don't forget while you're listening to me. And once you start the course, you'll receive a new lecture every week that you can watch whenever you want, along with readings and discussion boards and more. It's absolutely free to you. Make 2015 your year to know, to learn, to spread the word of the Constitution. Sign up for Constitution 101. It's absolutely free at levinforhillsdale.com. That's levinforhillsdale.com, Levin for Hillsdale.com. What a great school. I mean, truly, what a great school, what a great faculty, what a great leader there, Dr. Larry Arnn, who, by the way, is one of the world-renowned experts on Winston Churchill and the Declaration of Independence. And he's a very close friend of mine, a dear friend of mine. I've known him for 20 years. And he's just, this institution, Hillsdale College, is just so incredibly, incredibly special. Maureen, New York, Pennsylvania, the great WSBA. Go!
Thanks for taking the call, Mark.
Yes.
Mark, this federal judge down in Texas ordered that this DHS action didn't follow the proper reporting and public comment law, and that
Correct.
can't be remedied before, funding needs to occur. It also brought into question, constitutionality, and that's got to make its way through the courts. I do not understand why the Republicans, who are in a position of strength here and continue to act like they're the ones that, are being cornered and are in a position of weakness. I do not understand why they simply do not put an amendment to this bill that says this immigration program is in the courts. It did not follow the proper legality with reporting and comment. For us to fund it.
Maureen, they can't even get a vote on the bill. What the Democrats are doing now is they're threatening to filibuster. So the Republicans need to get 60 votes to get any bill voted on.
Okay, so high.
So it doesn't matter. The Democrats will not permit any amendments on the bills.
Okay, so tie what you've said with regard to getting the filibuster thrown out to bills that are presently wending their way through the court system on important matters, even if they don't want to do it for every...
Listen, the court system, we're getting hung up on the court system. The judge did his job. Now Congress needs to do its job. It doesn't need to tie to the courts. Congress needs to drop the filibuster rule, which is an internal rule, which was perfectly fine, but when you have a president who is utterly lawless and has nothing but contempt for the Constitution and even a federal judge, you've got to adjust your Senate rules in a way to deal with this president who is lawless, who they say is lawless, who's violating the Constitution, they say he is, in order to put bills on his table. And so that's all Congress does, is they pass laws if they can, hold hearings, spend money, borrow money, and send stuff to the president. Okay, if you have 46 Democrats who lost a huge election, 9 seats went Republican, and they won't even allow a vote on a bill, then just do what you need to do. Get rid of the filibuster rule during the pendency of this presidency. Send it to his desk and let the chips fall where they may so the American people know. Thank you, Maureen. Excellent call. Ladies and gentlemen, we salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, and emergency personnel. See you tomorrow, America. I'm Marc Levin. Officers, firefighters, and emergency personnel. See you tomorrow, America. I'm Marc Levin.